Now let's get on to our talking point of the day. Prince Charles has come in for some criticism this week after accepting patronage of a homeopathy charity. We briefly discussed this topic yesterday, and some of you accuse the Prince of Wales of using his position to promote the treatment, despite evidence, scientific evidence that homeopathy is ineffective. Well, a lot of people were sticking up for homeopathy. We want to find a bit more about it and to discuss whether it is a safe and healthy option. I'm joined now in the studio by homeopathic practitioner and GP, Dr. Charlotte Mendes da Costa. Charlotte, good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is interesting because the NHS have actually sort of dismissed homeopathy in the last couple of years. I'm just trying to find the quote here. And they've said that the review they conducted say the principles on which homeopathy is based are scientifically implausible, yet it's been given the royal seal of approval, it seems. What evidence do you have that homeopathy works that the National Health Service doesn't?
Well, there's plenty of evidence. Firstly, the principles on which it works are that you treat like with like. And so you would give very small doses of substances, which if you gave them in large doses would actually cause the very symptoms of the disease that you're actually treating. And there's plenty of evidence. There's evidence from sort of laboratory work on the structure of water, and there's also quite a number of studies now which show that in outcomes when you look at large numbers of patients who are treated with homeopathy, especially when it's like integrated by their GPs, their family doctors, have a better outcome than or at least as good as outcome as if they use just ordinary medications and treatments alone.
OK, homeopathy is a treatment based on the use of highly diluted substance, which practitioners like yourself claim can cause the body to heal itself. Now, people are very sceptical about this because when you say dilute substances, you're diluting them to such an amount that people say actually it's no different to giving somebody just a regular glass of water to cure things like cancer.
Well, it's true that some of the medicines we use do have, would be so diluted that you wouldn't be able to find the original substance. But,
so essentially it is a glass of water?
No, it's not a glass of water. It does seem to be implausible, and I know that there are a lot of detractors in the scientific community, but the experience of doctors and healthcare practitioners, dentists, vets all over the world find that it works.
You say that there's been evidence in a lab. What is the scientific evidence then? Can you talk us through the process in terms of once you have this glass of water with a tiny amount, like down to tiny molecules broken apart, tell me how that can cure cancer?
Well, I'm not claiming it cures cancer.
Well, in terms of,
I mean, if someone comes to me with cancer,
anecdotal evidence saying
cancer therapy.
Yeah, but in terms of they've not taken traditional treatment like chemotherapy, but they say that these homeopathic remedies have helped get rid of their cancer. The symptoms have gone.
Well, I'm not sure who's saying that, because at the Faculty of Homeopathy, we would always recommend that somebody would have the conventional treatment for a serious illness like cancer.
Well, talk to me about the
However, I would say that somebody like, if you're having cancer, you might be having chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and you might be experiencing extremely nasty side effects. And that might be an area where homeopathy does work.
But how in the lab has that been proven?
Well, in the lab, there are experiments on cells, on animals, and on, for instance, the structure of water. There's some similarities between work on nanoparticles.
So why have the National Health Service not recognised that? They're saying it's scientifically implausible. It's also the view of the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Dame Sally Davies. So how are they not accepting that?
Well, I would actually take issue. There was a parliamentary review of homeopathy in 2008, I believe, and they have to say that the parliamentary committee did systematically ignore all the evidence in favour of homeopathy which was put forward.
Let's bring in Simon Singh here. He's a scientist and author of Trick or Treatment, Alternative Medicine on Trial. Simon, your point of view is that this is a trick rather than a treatment, but Charlotte here is arguing that there is scientific evidence. What's your take?
Well, you know, I mean, I think you and I both agree that homeopathy doesn't work. Can we start from that position? As you say, the Chief Medical Officer, Chief Science Advisor to the government, not just the overwhelming majority of scientists, but the overwhelming majority of doctors, the BMA, everybody who's looked into this in a rigorous, independent way says that homeopathy does not work. It's ineffective. It's a sugar pill. And so then the question is, and in fact the NHS over the last 10 or 20 years has been stepping back from homeopathy very, very rapidly. So then the simple question is, why on earth is Prince Charles lending his name to homeopathy yet again? A man who has no scientific background, a man who has no medical background, the man who has no rational background, suddenly decides to throw his weight behind this. And it's really sad because we have issues around antibiotic resistance, we have issues around vaccinations, we have so many important medical issues that he could be standing up for. And this is the wrong one to pick, I'm afraid.
It's interesting. Charlotte, as a doctor, you obviously subscribe to the view that homeopathy works, but will you also prescribe traditional medicines as well?
Yes, of course. I consider it to be
prescribe homeopathy on its own. You wouldn't trust it to work.
I would on occasion, yeah, but I prescribe it for things like bruising, upper respiratory tract infections, sore throats,
which could just heal themselves naturally.
Yeah, they could do, but often people have to take, say, 3 weeks off work if they've got a nasty cough, which doesn't necessarily need antibiotics, and homeopathy can help them get better sooner.
And is there proof that it is homeopathy that's been prescribed that has cleared up this chest infection?
Yeah, there is proof in, as I said, these outcome studies. And not only that, but there are at least 200 million users of homeopathy worldwide.
Okay.
5 million in this country.
Question very quickly, please.
Yeah, of course you can.
Can I ask a question? Why does your other guest think that the Chief Medical Officer is so fundamentally wrong? What is her take on the Chief Medical Officer being so wrong about this and her and her colleagues being so utterly right?
Yeah,
why does she think? Is it conspiracy theory?
She has not looked at the evidence.
Well, she says it's a waste of time and money, and she has looked at the evidence.
She hasn't listened to families up and down the country.
What about the BMA? What about the BMA then? What about the BMA? Why are they? What about the conspiracy around the BMA?
People up and down the country, families, family doctors, vets, farmers who use it. Would you say that they're ignorant and deluded?
Well, we've got a tweet here from a viewer, Kevin Conroy, because we discussed this yesterday, and this was his tweet. He said, homeopathy basically killed my aunt. She had cancer and refused to get traditional treatment until it was too late. He thinks homeopathy should be illegal. It's giving people false hope. A lot of people are saying it's a placebo effect.
Well, I've said already about cancer. I would never recommend somebody use homeopathy just for cancer treatment. I mean, that would be absurd.
Simon?
There's an American doctor, Benjamin Rush. He was the father of American medicine. He taught half of the doctors in America in the 18th century. A brilliant man, fought for abolition, fought for women's rights. Extraordinary man, incredibly intelligent. He believed that bloodletting was effective. He bled his patients. And what he saw was the people who came back better, great, tick. The people who died who never came back, he never knew about. So according to him, bloodletting was the best thing in the world. What he didn't realise was that he was killing his patients. So what I'm saying is that smart people, if they don't know about all the evidence, if they don't see the evidence, if they have a slight bias or whatever else, then it's easy for doctors and patients and for me also to get things wrong. That's why we have to look at the best available evidence in an objective and unbiased way. And that's when you do that, you have all of these people from doctors to the vast majority of vets to the vast majority of experts around the world saying that homeopathy sadly does not work.
Okay,
it's not the experience that I have and my patients have.
Okay,
people I know have.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Mr. Singh and Dr. Charlotte Mendes da Costa, thank you very much for your contribution here about homeopathy. Prince Charles, of course, becoming a patron of a leading homeopathy organisation. Keep your thoughts coming in at Sky News, #Sunrise.